Welcome back to the Daily's Double Shot. My name is Austin Siedentoff.
And I'm Evelyn Osborne.
Up first, we have our coverage of the Huskies on the Hill in Olympia.
Next, we talk to the Costume Society, a new club at UW.
Housing and Food Services talks to us about being a vegan on campus.
We take a look at the Vagina monologues from last week.
The sign guy in the quad tells us why he's here on campus.
We see the SWAC at Terry Lander and its resources.
We get a recap of last week's CulturalFest.
And finally, we look at Speranta, an organization that sells hats made by gypsies in Romania.
All coming up
on today's Double Shot.
Ooh, what is that? Chelsey.
Yeah.
I'll see you there. Okay.
So I've heard that UW is about to go through some budget cuts in the near future.
Are students doing anything about it?
While they're trying, let's take a look at last week's Rally to Restore Funding and Lobby Day.
University of Washington students descended on Olympia for Huskies on the Hill Lobby Day to bark against budget cuts.
The purpose of today's event is the Student Lobby Day, so it's to kind of add one more element to directly contacting our legislators. So the biggest reason is to get students to have actual meetings directly face-to-face with legislators, because that's one of the biggest ways in which they know that we care.
We've got about 250 UW students down here today, and we're meeting with individual lawmakers in groups. So students are talking to their legislators, basically talking about issues of higher education funding, tuition rising, state need grant, making sure that we're protecting that. So it's all about tuition and talking to our legislators about higher education.
It's the one time that everyone can kind of join together as a campus and really show our own support. And so one of the things that we've focused on this year is trying to create opportunities, easy accessible means for students to effectively advocate directly to their legislators.
Tuition has risen 29% in the last 2 years alone, and with UW facing even more budget cuts this year, students are forced to stand up for their education.
The legislature is the one that decides how much funding the UW gets. And we have gotten a 50% budget cut in our state funding in the last 4 years, which impacts the number of TAs, impacts libraries and services closing, it impacts tuition skyrocketing, so it has huge impacts on every student.
We're trying to keep tuition at 11% and not go any higher. Graduate students' funding has been cut, particularly in the child care matching grant. They need help taking care of their children so that they can continue to go to school.
There's one proposal out, the governor's proposal, I think it's House Bill 1666, that could result in a 36% increase in tuition next year, which would be awful. So we are making it perfectly clear to legislators that we are not going to support them if they support that legislation.
When you come down here,
In addition to speaking with legislators, students came together on the Capitol steps to rally for their cause.
Your heart, your soul, your conviction. Go Huskies!
I think that we need to talk to legislators and tell them that higher education is an investment in the economy, and it's all about the future. It's not just another expense that we need to cut when state money runs out.
Today's one day amidst the entire legislative session that we have the power to influence. I hope today really makes a bigger impact so that they don't forget us.
It's important that we show up and make our voices heard.
In order for students to advance and for our economy to advance, people are being expected to have higher education degrees, and if our Washington State public universities are becoming inaccessible for even the students that live here, that's a problem for our state, for our future, and something that is worth fighting for.
Well, they certainly seem determined to restore our school's funding.
Godspeed.
So, speaking of politics, have you heard about the Costume Society?
How do politics relate to costumes?
Well, the Costume Society makes costumes.
Okay, that was the worst segue I've ever heard in my entire life.
Deep in the heart of Hutchinson Hall, home to the drama department, lies a little-known resource for UW students, the Costume Shop. Lined with boxes of fabric and embellishments, the Costume Shop provides sewing machines, mannequins, and other tools for anyone on campus who needs them. The room also serves as a meeting area for the Costume Society. Co-presidents Gina DeBenedictis and Andi Vancil tell us more about the Costume Society.
We're in the costume shop. It's Hutchinson 135, and basically any University of Washington student can come in here and use the sewing machines and the sergers and the equipment. You have to bring your own materials, but you can use the resources here.
We're trying to teach people how to sew because when we first formed this club, we started talking to like our friends and things. We're like, hey, would you be interested in this club? And the most common response we got was, that would be really awesome, but I don't know how to sew.
When we wanted to find other people who like to sew and like to make costumes and want to learn how to sew.
So we decided, well, we should probably start offering classes and teaching people how to sew. I mean, sewing is a really useful skill to have.
Sewing, even just knowing how to use a sewing machine, is really useful.
Once you know sort of the basics, then you can really start exploring your interests. And if you want to make a Halloween costume or go to an anime convention or a Renaissance fair, then you have that option, which I think is really cool. But most of our members have also gone to anime conventions or have expressed interest in it, so we're trying to do things that cater towards that a little bit more.
Andi and I are working on Star Trek costumes for Comic-Con.
I'm doing a costume from the original Star Trek series. I'm doing a nurse uniform, so you know, the short dress with it's like the blue sort of velour look. And I'm gonna wear that to Comic-Con in Seattle, which is in March.
Gina and Andi describe a project one member is working on right now and what sort of events they hope to hold in the future.
One of the members wanted to make a dress suit, and dress suits are very complicated. And he was just learned how to sew, and so we said, no, you really don't want to make this. It'd be much easier, much cheaper, much less headache to buy one and then tailor it to fit.
He is trying to do a character who wears a blue suit. His name is Phoenix Wright. He went to Goodwill and bought like a cheap suit. He was just getting the suit fitted to him, so I mean, you could see he was kind of holding up his pants because they were really big. But eventually what he's going to do is take apart most of the seams of the suit and then re-sew on the lines that you saw were being formed, so then the suit will fit him.
It'd be really fun if we could get a lot of people interested in sewing, and then we could have people making costumes, and we could do big groups for Halloween or for the different conventions, because it's always more fun to have a big group of people. And it'd be really fun, like we want to try and do a fashion show at some point. It'd be really fun if we had a lot of people in costumes that they've made, because it's just so much fun to wear a costume that you've made yourself and have other people appreciate it.
To get involved with the Costume Society, head over to Hutchinson Hall 135 on Thursday afternoons, email costume@uw.edu, or visit their Facebook page.
You know, I'm always really amazed how we learn about all these new student resources on the Double Shot.
I know. I had no idea that the costume shop existed or that it was available to students.
Speaking of student resources, let's see how vegan students cope with living in the residence halls.
Veganism, a lifestyle that chooses not to consume any animal byproducts, has been picking up among college students. We talked to students and administrators about the vegan and vegetarian accommodations in the residence halls. At McMahon 8, we talked to residential dining administrator Lance Lefebvre about available food choices.
In our system, we have several options. For example, in McMahon, we can start with Pagliacci, and same with the 1101, offers a vegetarian option every single day. And our salad bars, you're gonna, obviously is vegetarian. You are gonna find some vegan items in there, such as couscous and things along that line. Each one of the restaurants in the res halls offer a vegetarian or vegan item on a daily basis for both lunch and dinner.
For a vegan, if you want like a hot meal, your options are pasta, a veggie burger, rice and beans, or a salad. And so they definitely have like good options, but there's not a whole lot of variety. I definitely feel like I've not been as healthy here as I have like at my parents' house, where they're pretty conscious about it.
While students may not see many choices available in the residence halls, Housing and Food Services is constantly working to improve their vegan and vegetarian options. Tracy McRae, executive chef at McMahon 8, takes us through some of the accommodations being made.
The number one thing that we usually hear is people wanting either caloric information or nutritionals, and also wanting to know, how come you guys don't have anything that's vegan? And we're always looking for new ways to produce vegan products that please people. But I think if you go to any stand in here, you can get something that's either vegan or vegetarian.
We started off last spring quarter with some item identifiers for gluten-free and also for vegan and vegetarian.
So today, for example, if you guys look at the video screen, it'll say, I think it's a roasted eggplant. It'll say vegan. So we'll use the words, and then that'll be recognizable by everybody. The more you know about your diet choices, the better you're going to be. My number one issue is that most vegans and vegetarians don't get enough protein. And it's about food combining. It's about knowing what foods to put together.
You know, being conscious of getting enough nutrients and proteins, because that can sometimes be difficult.
You got to support your body with what it needs, and protein is the number one thing that I see vegans and vegetarians missing out on.
Being vegan, you could eat nothing but potato chips and, you know, it'd be vegan, but...
You can't live on Ruffles and ramen, even though it's vegan.
Housing and Food Services recognizes that veganism and vegetarianism have been becoming more popular among college students.
For our res hall system, for the survey that we conducted last fall, we had 8% were vegetarian and 1% were vegan. I think with everyone focusing on being healthy, you know, and different dining options, I feel there's been a slight increase. It hasn't been a huge one, but we do recognize that there is an increase in vegan diets.
It's getting more and more every day, and in conjunction with that, people's allergy issues are sometimes connected with choosing a vegan lifestyle as well. So we've had a lot of gluten and celiac and issues like that starting to come our way. So every day, I think we become more conscious.
Although living the vegan lifestyle while living in the residence halls may bring up challenges, Housing and Food Services is making progress to provide more choices for vegan and vegetarian students.
Last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, UW students performed in the Vagina Monologues, but with a new twist on this popular show.
The Vagina Monologues had their opening night on February the 10th. We spoke with the producers Kirsten Miner, the director of UW's Women's Action Commission, and Chris Palmer to learn about the event.
Women's Action Commission is one of ASUW's 8 diversity commissions. We all sit on the Joint Commissions Committee, and we do programming and advocacy for women on campus. The Vagina Monologues are a series of monologues written by Eve Ensler in the early 90s, and the goal is to talk about women's sexuality in a way that doesn't objectify them, to talk about women's sexuality from their own perspective, and also to talk about violence against women and bring the issue to light. You know, I've had dozens of women who I've just handed flyers to just get so excited and perk up. We've been selling vagina cookies, and people just get a kick out of that. And then I've also had really negative reactions. I had somebody on Red Square, when I offered him a flyer the other day, ask me, do I look like a feminist to you? I mean, I've had all over the board, so it's been really, really interesting to me to see how receptive people are or not receptive.
The best part of the Vagina Monologues, I think, is that as it gets older, more monologues are added / more women come out and will tell her story or, you know, tell their story. And then as a story gets interesting, Eve includes it. So it's a constantly evolving piece.
Kirsten also talks about the exciting new additions they've added to the monologue.
We've done this year is add some dance pieces and some songs to the show, which is pretty unusual for the monologue. So when you start seeing the show, you're going to see a monologue and then a couple of dance pieces actually, and then another series of monologues before we go into intermission.
I think the fact that a single person shows up here makes it successful. I would almost rate success on the volunteers, which is if we have promoted it so much that people are willing to sacrifice their time, you know, free of charge, and to work as hard as the people here have worked. That to me shows the success of this show.
Last year they sold out at least a couple nights. This year we're in a bigger space, so I'm not certain that we'll sell out, but we're definitely doing really well on ticket sales so far.
The Vagina Monologues hope to inspire more women to discuss their intimate thoughts more openly. As time goes by, it has become a constantly evolving production, bringing in a longer line of students each year.
I wish I could have made it. That show looked great.
Yeah, it definitely looked really cool, but I've heard that the title's drawn a lot of controversy.
You know what else has brought up a lot of controversy lately? That guy who's been holding up signs in the quad.
You know, I had a chat with him. Let's take a look.
Perhaps you've seen him on the quad as you walk to and from class. He stands beneath a tree holding strange signs, inviting people to engage in conversation. His name is Kevin Smith. Kevin first appeared on the quad for the first time on January 3rd. Since then, he has been there almost daily with signs. students are divided on their opinions about his presence.
Oh my gosh, I've so seen him.
I think the guy's got guts to be standing there with a strange sign every day. I don't know what his purposes are, but yeah, kudos to him, I guess.
I think it's strange. I always kind of wonder what he's thinking. It doesn't bother me very much, but that's about all.
The other day, he had a sign that says, this will not be on TV, and then the other day he had a sign that said, I am not gay, or something like that. What does the sign say today?
Well, it's weird. I don't like strangers.
Kevin seems to be inviting students up for discussion, more concerned about their opinions than his own.
When I had the sign, "Don't think," which many people, they seemed to be quite upset that they couldn't pin me down to what interpretation I had, or even what my purpose was in being here. I'd like to see people be able to deal with ambiguity. I think in our culture we're used to this means this and that means that.
It seems that Kevin is inviting people to think about the world in a different way. Some students, however, have taken offense at a couple of his signs.
Some people have been offended by the signs. With the "I am not gay" sign, there were people who said it was homophobic, that it was offensive. But on the other hand, there was a gay man who came up, he found it not in the slightest bit offensive. People would come up and say, well, why would you say something like that? It could be controversial. And then I asked, well, if I said I am gay, would that be controversial? They said, no, it wouldn't.
I think it's great that there's someone out there holding a sign, because I think at this moment there's a lot of tension in the air and a lot of people are afraid to recognize that tension. So whenever anyone has the courage to stand up and express themselves in such a crowded place as the University of Washington is, I have a lot of respect for that.
Maybe I will go up and talk to him. I don't know.
You know, I'll probably talk to him after class today.
I mean, if he wants friends, what better way than to be strange? I guess I've done that myself, so yeah.
I would like to embolden other people to do something similar, or maybe something unusual. People have come up to me and said, hey, I had an idea for a sign too. I think people feel they might be ridiculed, and I'm sure I have been ridiculed, but I would say do it anyway. It's worth it. It's been extremely interesting.
You can also check out Kevin's blog at signsonthequad.blogspot.com. Check it out. I'm so bored.
Why are you bored?
Well, I live in the dorms and I don't know how to talk to girls.
I'm a girl.
No, you're my boss.
Well, why don't you just head down to the SWAC?
The what?
The Southwest Activities Center. Let's take a look now.
In the basement of the Terry Lander Residence Hall lies a little-known room that offers a variety of activities. The Southwest Activities Center, or SWAC as they call it, gives students the opportunity to take an enjoyable study break, socialize with friends, or even express their creativity through a range of mediums, one of them being photography.
I know that when I graduated from high school, I did photography in high school, and I didn't want to be an art major, but I still wanted to do photography, and I don't want to pay the money and use the effort to completely deck out my house with a darkroom, because it's really hard to do and really expensive. And when this job opened up, I was like, why not? It'd give me an opportunity to do photography. And if I were a student, the darkroom wasn't open when I was a freshman and I lived in the dorms. I wish it were, because I totally would have used it.
Students visit the SWAC on a regular basis. In addition to the fully functional darkroom, the SWAC also has a crafts room capable of ceramics and pottery work.
We'll usually have an open house the first and autumn quarter, just to kind of get the word out about the crafts room, and then so people can come glaze pots, and then I'll fire it for them for free. And then if they wanted to get involved more permanently throughout the quarter, they would have to pay a fee at the Terry front desk and then bring the receipt to me, and I'd hold like a 5-minute orientation with them just to get them started. And then once they've done that orientation, they can use the room whenever the SWAC is open, so I don't have to be there. It's more self-guided kind of stuff.
On top of hockey, foosball, and pool, and Xbox and the Wii, and ping pong, we also have 2 saunas, men's and a women's, and a lot of students like to use that after exercising in the the little gym we have over there.
The SWAC really does have something for everyone, and best of all, most of it is a free resource to all UW students. It is also an excellent opportunity for aspiring shutterbugs or crafts enthusiasts, since they provide all the equipment necessary to make your own prints or pots. So if you find some free time, feel free to stop by the SWAC and check out what they have to offer. It has a great atmosphere and the staff are friendly people that always seem to enjoy their work. Hours of operation are every day, 2 p.m. to midnight, and you can get more info at the Terry front desk.
Well, that looks like a fantastic place to go next time I'm bored. Play some Guitar Hero.
You know, you could also just go to some of the events around campus,
Like what?
like CulturalFest.
Oh yeah, CulturalFest. What was that again?
Well, last Thursday, over 35 countries were represented at Phi Ute's celebration of cultural diversity. Let's take a look now.
Excuse me while I kiss the sky.
On February 10th, students of all ages attended CulturalFest's International Culture Exhibition, where over 35 countries had booths with informational posters, games, artwork, food, and more. Cultures from all around the world were represented, from India to Somalia to Pakistan, Afghanistan, South Africa, Russia, and even our own United States of America. CulturalFest is intended to celebrate diversity and present an opportunity to explore cultures in and around the University of Washington. CulturalFest is hosted annually by Phi Utes, the Foundation for International Understanding through Students. After the exhibition earlier in the day, various countries performed cultural music and dance at CulturalFest's evening show.
And tonight is just a sampling of the diversity of cultural experiences that have come here to Seattle at the University of Washington.
Don't miss next year's CulturalFest 2012 and check out www.phiutes.org for more information.
Austin, why are you holding your ears?
It's winter quarter and I'm cold.
Do you realize there's an organization on campus who sell hats for a cause?
Hats?
Yeah, Speranta sells hats to support Romanian gypsies in need.
Awesome.
Introducing Arthur Zetas and Chelsey James, two UW students that have a unique way of raising funds for the less fortunate.
In 2006, when I was a freshman in high school, my dad said, "Hey Arthur, there's Youth Compass is doing this volunteer trip to Romania. You'll be able to meet lots of other third culture kids and it'll be a great time. You want to go?" I said, "Sure." So I went and I was amazed at what I saw. We worked with this small community of gypsies in Sharia, Arad, Romania, northwest Romania, and seeing the poverty there was unbelievable. People growing up in crumbling mud houses, not having enough food to eat, not having enough clothes to wear. Most people were barefoot.
Imagine growing up without the basic necessities of life, like food, shelter, or warmth. It was problems like these that Zetas was trying to correct.
There's this nonprofit organization called Networks that's been working in that area for the past 15 years. Started by a great guy, his name is Lee Saville. And in 2008, they created this self-help program called Deche, where they taught gypsy mothers who have no skill or education on their own to crochet hats and then sell them. And when I was there in 2008 and I saw these hats for the first time, I thought the hats were awesome. They were really cool, but I saw that they weren't strong enough material and I didn't think that they would be fashionable enough in America to sell right then. And plus I was, 17 back then. I didn't think I could do it.
But Arthur didn't give up hope. His drive to help the poverty-stricken in Romania kept him looking for some way he could help.
I went to Romania and I didn't have a single thought about starting my own business, and the day I came back I was saying, okay, how can I sell these hats? I started looking up ways to distribute hats in the US. I talked with the customs house in Seattle, and I talked with my friends on how to sell these hats, and I found out pretty quickly that I had to start my own business.
Thus, the company Speranta was born.
Speranta, S-P-E-R-A-N-T-S-A, is it's my own spelling of the Romanian word for hope. Hope is a very broad name. I didn't want to limit myself to just hats, because in the future, what if I want to expand to other charitable goods? They can all inspire hope, but they're not all hats.
Zetas can't do it all alone, and that's where Chelsey James comes in, donating her time for the cause.
So I make advertisements to post around campus. I also contact various groups to be in their events, such as like the Hip Hop Student Association, we're going to be in their fashion show. And then like Crochet Kids, we're now in correspondence with them, and you know, things like that. And like other distributors kind of like us, like there's a guy at WSU who's making shirts and he wants them to go to, you know, all the money to go to charity. So I'm pretty much in charge of just reaching out to different people, as well as like, you know, telling UW like, hey, look what we're doing, you should come help out.
Both Arthur and Chelsey donate their time to table in Red Square and sell the hats to students.
Tabling days, we're here from 10 to 3, so that's 5 hours at least, and then like another hour outside that. So I'd say 6 hours some days, other days like 3 when I'm not tabling.
So make sure to check out Speranta, the company that isn't just about hats, but more importantly, hope.
Well, that's all we have for you today, UW.
Thanks for watching this week's episode.
And be sure to check out our next episode on March 4th for even more great segments.
See you next time
on the Daily's Double Shot.